watching the strongest league in all of the MLBB sports world. The action starts now. First up, let's talk about RSG Philippines. They're fielding a roster as close to RSG Prime.
That's right, RSG Prime, obviously you will remember this as the RSG Season 9 winning roster. And not much has changed here because they back here, they added again. We got some people who flew out and flew back in, and then just basically forming RSG that we know and love.
Technically, who's in that roster?
He was 6-man. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Right. He was in there. So I'm looking forward to RSG sticking to this, finding their power spike, hitting their stride, and then again, just making it to the podium as they do, as they always do, season after season. Brigida, talk to us about Minana Evos.
Minana Evos, this time I think
What's up,
there
boss?
aren't really much changes.
Shout out, Boss Minard sa YouTube. Boss, naglalag ba ako? Naglalag ba ako sa YouTube? Naka-multi-stream kasi ako eh.
How capable this team is of going up even up against the most of the strongest teams we recognize around the world today who are based here in the Philippines, and it's something that they or RSG might
Hindi boss, ayun, ayos. Hanggang ano sagad ng resolution sa YouTube.
It's really in the mid to late where they're actually proving to be quite a challenge.
Kaya talaga wag multi-stream eh, baka ano.
Why does it seem that Minana Evos
medyo nagdalag.
Late game and they take us to 33, 34 minutes consistently.
I think it always boils down to whether or not Kirk can find the final slashes that we look for. Kirk definitely
may frame drop
our main of this season. I think
baka sa una lang.
They have been really tearing it up, but obviously Spider Miles still something that is always in the crosshair of these coaches' targets.
Yeah, and adding up to what you mentioned, I think stats say that Minana hasn't won a game that on the R lot.
Oh, no.
So that's I think that's something we need to see that Minana has to work on, because I think teams are also starting to know
kasi naka-ano lang to eh, naka 30 frame rate lang to. Baka hindi kayanin eh.
Or deny it from him. And again,
palag-palag na yan, Minana. Oo nga, palag-palag na Minana.
The spider in the room. Miles is just a utility roam god. And that's all he's got. Is that all he's got? That's the question I have.
Hindi mag-lag, ang
That's
init.
a good question. Again, these are things that you kind of expect a lot of players to kind of encounter, these issues where you have so much. You have a big pool, but all of them are support heroes. Like, I mean, obviously we're going to have to see if Miles has grown in terms of not just of height. Obviously, he's very tall. But whether or not he can adapt more heroes in this pool and maybe give the opposing team a harder time.
Sa YouTube ka ba capture nun? Sa YouTube.
Last time I checked, he was like 6'4".
Oh, wow.
So you see here in their choice of heroes,
bakit?
Minotaur, Grok for light.
Sabay naman ata eh.
For Miles, there's the
nalilate lang sa YouTube.
The
Rafa man.
Amaterasu.
Brigida, talk to us about the keys to victory here.
I think the keys to victory really echo what
Di kaya multi-stream, putang eh.
I think the past few minutes. RSG, they really have to respect the hero pool of Spider Miles here, which I think we've been frequently seeing when teams go up against
Baka one game lang to.
It's something that actually they get to capitalize on somehow.
Shout out Amaterasu.
Strength when Spider Miles gets a hold of those heroes. Whereas for Minana Evos, what they really have to do is again do also what previous teams have been able to do against RSG.
Naglalag na sa YouTube, no?
Being able to get that jungle to actually snowball, or even whenever he gets the assassins or whenever he gets the utility, just really target Kusei here on the gold lane and eventually avoid or prevent the rotations. And for both, capitalize on their power spikes. I think we've also mentioned it.
Oy, salamat sa mga nag-share.
I feel like there's a contrast between RSG as well as Minana. RSG, it's very
share lang ka ng share para manalo kayo ng Brody M5 scene.
For the mid to late game.
Real quick, reminding everyone about MPL Philippines live stream viewer awards. They're available now. Come and watch the MPL matches on TikTok to join the goodie bag.
Shout out Boss Krong Katbalawan Sama. Shout out Julius Dante.
TikTok, open TikTok, search for MPL Philippines.
Asilo.
And hit live. Right there. At
Katbalawan Samar.
Official. That's a live stream. And click on the top left corner to join the goodie bag lottery.
And that's it, folks. Come on and enjoy the best MLBB action in the whole world and see what new tricks Minana Evos and
lag dito sa YouTube, Lodi Cake.
Alex here actually kind of
nga, medyo lag nga.
Where maybe
Tangina, sela talaga ng YouTube.
Clearly for the late game. Carl, I gotta ask you, where might RSG
Oh,
their
naka-main
fights
kasi yung
like
FB.
they really wanna
Nasa
do.
main kasi
Early
yung
game,
FB.
like let's say 5-10 minutes in, like even turtle-wise.
Babaan ko na lang resolution na ito.
I think that's the reason why, you know, we
Kaya
bothered up so
mababa
many
na
times
nga eh.
that Minana has been trying to get to the late game. That's where they really shine. I think
Tanga na,
you have
end
to
live ko na
attack
yata
that
sa
early
YouTube,
game and make sure that Kirk has a hard time roaming. And for the little god, please, someone shut down Lancey. Lancey has been one of the keys whenever he gets his hands on the Novaria. That has been one of the keys where they can prolong these games. Maybe shut down that mid lane, get an entry opening early on, and break them wide open.
So if RSG wins the early, it's up to them to finish quick so that Minana Evos can't even think of the 20-minute mark.
Yep, and I think RSG is a team that's capable of doing that simply because if we look at the average game time of these two teams, RSG is significantly lower than that of Minana. They often finish their games within 15 minutes. So they're a team that if they get hold of the early game, they can really capitalize and take advantage of it. Whereas if they don't, it's hard for them to actually bounce back and regain that momentum that they've lost.
All right, here we go. Game number 1, RSG on the play. They are on the blue side, still with a whopping 61% across the league going into week 3. Red side for Minana Evos. First pick, there's the Novaria. Talking about denial. Talking about Lancey in mid here.
Love it.
Yeah. Still, we might just see the Lilia for Lancey later on. I mean, it's one of the heroes that he really stood out when he was able to get his hands on.
Alanganin RSG dito, lakas ang Minana eh.
Able to get the Lilia for Lancey when it was up
Malakas ang
against
Minana.
used that Lilia against them and they lost 0-2, so they really might want to get hold of their comfort picks. But speaking of comfort picks, I think they will definitely secure this R-lot now it's open.
There it is. So, obviously, they don't need to get the Lilia right away.
So, ano
They
yung
have some
sounds yan, no?
room to do that.
Nabibingi
Maybe
ako sa
on the
boses
first
ko.
pick here. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. If it doesn't
Chappy,
get picked up
boss
here,
ko nga,
there's
sa
a good
FB na
chance
lang kayo
lost
manood.
again.
Sa mga YouTube na nanonood sa YouTube, sa FB na lang kayo manood.
I could recall that Lilia
Medyo choppy eh.
going in the
Medyo
middle
choppy
of the
si-
fights and finding the target.
Hi there and have a good stream.
Use all those glooms
Really
and
Hopefully, Timon,
insane
shout out.
performance. But this Barats is actually a really great deny pick as well for Demon Kite, since I think it's also one of the main heroes that he was able to use previously. But that leaves
Hirapan nga
other
IP
options
Bren ko
available
to.
as well, such as the marksman here for Kusei, because
Palag-palag Minana rito.
mostly carry for Kusei as well, but it seems like they'll secure.
Lakas yan eh. Spider-Mans.
Closing up their first phase.
Eh no, nakaba na agad utility ni Spider-Mans. Oh.
Clear choices here for RSG.
Tanga na, Angela para Mino.
In the jungle. As for Minana Evos though, we can't say for sure if
Bukas maganda laban eh. IP Bren Echo. Oo, maganda lang bukas.
But if this was a different team, they can still flex that.
That is true.
So even after the long break,
Nagdalag na rin sa FB ko ah.
are still on that same
Patayin ko na kaya sa
path.
YouTube.
They're playing what they know, what they're comfortable with, and they're gonna close their first phase off with a Valentina.
At the very least, I'm very happy that, you know what, RSG, they did their homework. And if you can't completely ban out Kirk's R-Lot, you have to make a way to make it hard for the R-Lot to get out of that laning phase. And Xborg is definitely a great hero against R-Lot. So hard for that R-Lot to really dominate in that lane. And if you leave it, you're in trouble.
Here's what's odd. We're going into the second phase, and very rarely does it happen that we don't get a gold laner in the first phase at all. Carry is still out there. Claude is still out
Ano,
there.
FPS na rin yung ano ko.
While we're
I-off
waiting
ko na yun sa
for,
YouTube.
Evos' ban now on the
Na-apekto
red
eh.
here, second phase. I'm loving the conversation that you guys are having on the MLBB Esports YouTube channel, right? Come on down. Let us know what you think, why it is that MPL PH...
Di kaya pa ng
and
multi-stream.
why are we all so different? Because there's some W takes in here. I'm like, yeah, definitely. That's the reason why. MPL PH, very technical. Even in the draft alone, you can see how these teams want to go and pick their fights and how they can do that from early all the way to late.
Yeah, big shout out everyone on the MLBB Esports chat on YouTube. We're reading that. Everyone's surprised that you're here, Brigida. That's a very warm welcome. And yeah, obviously, I feel like we are going to have to look into those gold laners. This is very common, I would say. In a matchup where both gold laners are very stable already. They have a huge pool. Didn't even bother.
I do feel like it's going to be a huge challenge here for Kusei to actually match up against Doming in the lane. Considering that you would expect Minana to really focus or center around these utility heroes, which would likely support the gold lane or aid in the laning phase. And it's been very crucial for Kusei in the past few matches to either win his lane, because if not, and if the rest of the members of RSG don't get hold of the early game, it becomes all the more difficult for him to actually find great footing whenever there's a team fight or in general taking up the necessary gold. So right now,
Hello, boss. Dito na lang ako manood. Kaumay sa Tagalog caster.
and the carry, it might just go into the hands of Minana since they will be the first to pick right after
Okay,
the
baka sa akin ka maumay, ha?
Me, Coach Dalian, Coach Panda, and even Kusei, part of the conversation, knows that that's what's going to happen. They're allowing it unless they ban it here now.
Yeah, most
Right?
likely, obviously, any hero that Doming has picked up.
Nalagyan sa YouTube ko. Hindi kaya ng internet yung double stream.
Even in the games that they lose,
Yep.
he goes crazy.
Yep, whether it be a Claude, a carry,
Delay, oh.
Clint, the young Doming has played the Clint, and I don't know, with a 0% win rate on Harith across the league, I don't even think that's even worth considering. I don't know, maybe with RSG now, maybe they can pick that up
Di
if they ban the carry
kaya.
here.
If actually we're talking about winning the laning, then
Really?
could there
Try
be
natin
actually
one game kahit lag, ha?
very
Pag lag
famous
ng one
lane
game,
right now,
end ko na
called
yung live sa
Roger
YouTube.
or
Oh no.
something.
Roger Gold.
Because
That sounds good.
That's been, or he's been making some noise recently.
He's on the road towards normalization, man. Ever since
We'll get
Innocent started playing it in the opening week of MPL MI, it's like, oh, come on, man.
Ban Florin,
fun.
para
That was
wala
fun.
nang
That was
gamitin
a fun
si
game.
Spider-Man.
0% win
Oh,
rate!
ban Florin nga!
0% win rate.
Okay, but maybe Domin can make some magic here.
If there was any gold laner in the whole MPL
Wala
Philippines,
na,
it
oh,
would-
target ban
if
si
not,
Mans.
If not Super Marco, it might be Doming, right? Or anyone.
Yeah, actually, Doming, when it comes to the mid or to the late stages of the game, we
Gago.
often see him in
Tinarget si
places you
Mans.
typically would not expect marksmen or the gold laners to be in that stage of the game. So he really has something, or he's
May panalo na
capable
ba
of,
RSG? Meron, isa pa
playing
lang.
around with positioning when it comes to the
Dito
line.
na ako daw nga, no?
He's that confident in his
Malag
attack.
sana YouTube, eh, no?
Doming is a
Hindi
very
pa kaya
veteran
ng
skilled player, if I may
Hindi
say.
kaya
Okay,
siguro ng
something tells
internet.
me Maybe RSG isn't as comfortable playing the carry because
Dito
they
na lang tayo
have
sa
to know
FB.
what to pair it up
I-end
with.
ko na yung
You usually want it with a Kaj, and Coach DJ, Coach Bitoy may have closed that up. There we go. We're picking up a Nathan and a Cho. The only Cho ever in MPL PH was in the hands of JP. That's it. Now there's a second Cho.
Oh, wow. it's-
0% win rate so far.
Exactly.
Too light.
Yeah, but you know,
Grabe ban kayo, no? Spider-Man, so.
right? It's something that can kind of deal with most of the roams that are
Pati
still
Florin, binan, hindi pinatawad.
here. Definitely, he won't have problems like being out-sustained because a lot of the sustain heroes are banned out.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have to
Wala na,
he
end
can
ko na
make that set
dito.
quite easily. It's just a big question of who Spider-Man is gonna go down to.
Yeah, and
End ko na sa YouTube.